Typical outing for a big team in week one, taking on the MAC. Kentucky gets it done. They don't necessarily steamroll, but they do what they need to do with a comfortable win, 37-13 over Miami of Ohio. Next up, the SEC, the Florida Gators, the Swamp, and a hot Gators team coming off a big win. We got Kevin McGuffey on the line. Last word on college football. Hey, Kevin.
Hey, Mark. How you doing? Great to talk to you this morning. I like the helm or. Today, like the helmets you got behind you there, very, very nice. So I like that UK one. That one, especially that one's really sharp.
Got him right there for the big matchup. Yes,
and as you said, Kentucky kind of very slow coming out of the gates on Saturday against Miami of Ohio. Only had 13-10 at the half, and then finally put them away. Did what an SEC team is supposed to do. Kind of more or less impose their will and put the game away, winning 37-13. And now got that one out of the way and head into a big one in Florida where they're trying to win, after the 31 straight losses, trying to win for the second time in 4 years. And if we're being honest, it should be the third time in 4 years. That 2019 game will haunt every Kentucky fan. If you go through the list of most depressing or disappointing UK losses, the 2019 game where they left wide receivers open not once, but twice during that game, leading to Florida touchdowns, which we all now, the Kyle Trask game, basically, where he came in after the injury and led them to victory. And also a little history, it'd be if Kentucky wins on Saturday, it'd be the first time since 1976 and 77 that Kentucky had defeated Florida in 2 straight years. So a lot riding on the line. And one more thing, if Kentucky wins, Mark Stoops will officially become the all-time wins leader at the University of Kentucky. Tied Bear Bryant with 60 wins on Saturday with the win there. So a lot to play for sure.
A lot to play for. Florida's made it interesting with a week one effort that they showed against the Pac-12 champion. All right, let's get to this Kentucky performance and transition this to what we may see on Saturday, because everybody out there thinks of Kentucky as defense and running game. Mm-hmm. Will Levis, obviously an emerging quarterback. They were much more balanced last year, but he threw for 303. The rushing attack, 26 attempts, 50 yards. You take Levis out, that's sack yardage. To be reasonable, to be fair, 19 carries, 68 yards, but still not necessarily the plowing forward, churning Kentucky ground game that we've grown accustomed to in the last 5 years.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And when you think of, as you said, when you think of Kentucky football, the first thing that comes to your mind is that rushing game. And yeah, I think it was a 1.9 yards per carry average that they had against Miami of Ohio. So obviously heading into Florida, that's something that's very concerning. Another thing that's concerning is all of a sudden Kentucky's gone from having a whole bunch of quality running backs to only having a couple. You and I talked in the preseason about one of the things I was most excited about on this team was the running game. So Chris Rodriguez is still out. We talked about this before. He had a DUI over the summer and was suspended at least for the Miami game for that. Now, word came as before you and I were talking today that the Kentucky is actually waiting on the NCAA to decide how much longer he has to stay out. Now, won't get into all the details. There may be something to do with NILs and all that, but he's at least going to be out this week because when Mark Stoops did his press conference earlier this week, he said, very weird. He just said, I'll let you know when they tell me he's available, I'll let you know. So so we're like, okay, why does, the head coach not even know when he's going to be available? But that's the story that came out before we were talking that Kentucky's waiting on the NCAA to decide when Rodriguez is able to play. They think it's going to be at least 2 more games. But Ramon Jefferson, a guy who you and I talked about, they were really high on from Sam Houston State, FCS All-American last year. Second carry for Kentucky, went down with an injury. Turns out it's torn ACL. He's out for the season. Juton McClain, who is also out this week. So basically Kentucky has our guy, Cavassier Smoke, and Lavelle Wright, and then possibly Michael Drennan behind him. So, yeah, as a Kentucky fan and reporter, the fact that the rushing game is all of a sudden a question mark is something we're not used to here. And you could say the same for the offensive line. That offensive line that was rebuilt, with Kennard being gone, Luke Fortner being gone, they struggled against Miami, gave up 4 sacks, and he said only 60 yards rushing. So that's a question too. They moved Kenneth Horsey, who was starting left guard, to left tackle for Saturday's game. So we'll see how that goes. He played left tackle in the Citrus Bowl game against Iowa last year. So yeah, running game still didn't think you'd ever say that with Kentucky, but it's definitely a question mark. And it may be one of those deals where Levis, we may have to see like the quarterback draw. He had great success without, running the ball last year. He may, that may be part of Rich Scangarello's scheme for this Saturday. Just you never know. And Florida, always has a good solid defense. So
Tavion Robinson had a big day, 6 catches for $136, and we may need to see more of him and the other receivers. This should be a different Kentucky deal going into the swamp. Did you get a chance to see the Gators against Utah? That was a pretty impressive game.
I did.
I caught every play. Yep.
Yeah, I saw most of the second half kind of after. I was kind of following, was the UK game, and then once that was over, turned over and watched the second half of the Utah game. You can't help but be impressed with, especially, with Anthony Richardson in that fourth quarter. He was just flat out, the best player on the field, I thought. And that's obviously for Kentucky on the defensive side of the ball, somebody they've got to try to contain him. They did a really good job against him last year. Now, whether or not they'll be able to do that again this year, of course, remains to be seen. You talked about the receivers. Tavion Robinson had a great game. If you look at the depth chart for this week, Kentucky's starting 2 freshmen, Barian Brown and Dane Key. Now, Brown had a 101-yard kickoff return for a touchdown against Miami. First UK player to do a kickoff return since 2009. I think it was like them and Army and somebody else for the longest streak without a kickoff return. And but he did. He came in. Was a late summer enrollee, and it's just turned heads. And you see he's starting on Saturday. And then Dane Key, who's from a local product here in Lexington from Frederick Douglass, he was another guy you and I talked about in the preseason that we thought we're going to see a lot of him. And he had a good game, had a touchdown on Saturday, and those are going to be your two. Those are your 2 receivers. 2 of your 3 receivers starting on Saturday. Freshmen heading into one of the best places, the best environments for college football. So that's something I'll be looking for, is to see how those freshmen hold up against all the noise. They've been doing the whole piping in, loud noise and everything at practice this week, so that trying to get them ready for that, for the noise and the atmosphere they're gonna see down there.
Kevin, I didn't really need to hear all this, because going into the season, I thought I was just going to check mark Kentucky to win this game. Now you're going to force me to really have to think this one over.
Yeah, I'll be very honest. I thought Utah would beat Florida fairly handily last week. It didn't happen. I thought Billy Napier was going to start 0-2 against Florida, or at Florida. But you know what? I even as the UK guy, I'm still going to pick Kentucky, because why not? If I'm the UK guy, I should pick Kentucky. So I'm going to say 24-20 Kentucky, and we'll see what happens. And I'm sure if I'm wrong, all the Florida fans online have been able to find me before, most notably in 2019. So I'm sure they'll find me again to give all kinds of grief if I'm wrong. But I think it's going to be a great game. I think Kentucky has gotten to the point now to where Florida is an actual rivalry. You think about the late 90s and the 2000s, where the 73-7s and 65-0s, and even as recently as 2016, it was like 45-3 or 45-7. But Mark Stoops, as you and I have talked before, has made Kentucky into a team. I always call them a force, but a team that is competitive and is beating some of these other schools in the SEC now. 2 out of 4 against Florida, 2 out of 4 against Tennessee. Now, of course, Georgia is still the big one. The big mountain still left to climb, but that's like 9 weeks away. We'll worry about that one later. But I'm going to say Kentucky 24-20. And if I'm, if I'm wrong, that's okay. I'm going to be positive.
A number of guys that I see in the box score here, obviously guys that we're familiar with on the defensive side of the ball for Kentucky as all SEC kind of players. DeAndre Square, Jock Jones, Keedron Smith was a big transfer that came in. Justin Rogers was a huge recruit when he came to campus. What do you think about the defense? And again, as you alluded to, the big challenge is going to be containing Anthony Richardson.
Right. And one more thing, Jordan Wright, linebacker, did not play against Miami of Ohio. He's in kind of the same, don't know all the details, in the kind of the same situation with Rodriguez. They're waiting for the NCAA to tell them when he can play. Obviously, if he could play on Saturday, that's going to be a huge boost to that defense. But as you said, you've got Jacquez Jones, you've got DeAndre Square, and then up front, Octavius Oxendine, Justin Rogers. Those guys have got to get some kind of pass rush, got to get some kind of containment on Richardson. And I thought to have as many kind of new guys as they had in the secondary last week, I thought, I know they're playing Miami of Ohio, but, Gabbard is a very good quarterback for Miami of Ohio. And minus the first drive, Kentucky played a zone the first drive, and Miami pretty much marched right down the field. And then if you go back and watch that game, Brad White switched to man-to-man defense, and they did so much better until the very end, where you were kind of just playing out the string, and they got some more yards there. But like I said, guys like Carrington Valentine, Jalen Geiger, I thought a lot of those guys played really well. And DeAndre Buford, I thought did a very good job as well. So up front, so like I said, containing Richardson is the key, and they were able to do it last year. And for the Big Blue Nation, I hope they can do it again this year.
Kevin McGuffey, last word on college football. We got Florida, we got Kentucky getting after it in the swamp. Kevin, we appreciate you stopping by. And for a lot of people out there that are going to see Kentucky for the first time this year, and that's going to be most everyone, you're going to see maybe a little bit different Kentucky, maybe a little bit more pass. And we'll see what happens. Should be an interesting one, and obviously a key in the SEC Eastern Division.
Yeah, I think, and one more quick thing, I look for, if you watch that Florida game, Utah had a lot of success throwing to the tight ends. Watch for Brendan Bates, maybe hopefully returning Keaton Upshaw, Josh Caddis, some of those guys. Look for, with Scangarello, came from the 49ers. Obviously, you think of the 49ers and tight ends, you think of George Kittle. That's a point of emphasis. They want to get the tight ends involved more this year, and that's something to watch. I think a couple of those guys could possibly, based on what happened in the Utah game, I think a couple of those guys could have a really big game.